Hello, everyone. So I'm just going to go over a little PowerPoint here I got from another teacher that will tell you a little bit more about this year's APC test. First off, note that it is Monday, May 11th at noon. Everyone around the world will take it at the same time, so be glad you're not in other parts of the world where you have to take it in the middle of the night. You get yours right at noon. Now, there is a makeup test available on June 1st, but they really don't intend for people to use that unless you absolutely have to. If maybe, say, you're sick on May 11th, or in this year, if you have a technical issue, your internet goes down, something like that, there will be a form to fill out with the College Board, and pending approval by them, they would let you take the test then on June 1st. So it's not something that you just choose, right? By the way, I ran out of time. Not a reason to be able to take the makeup test. So plan on taking it on May 11th at noon. This year's test is structured quite differently than any of the other APC tests. It's down to two questions, two free response questions. One that's a little longer than the other, but total, right? They make up your entire grade. So the first question is going to be a 30-minute timer, which will be right on your screen when it opens up. And you get 25 minutes to answer the question and 5 minutes to submit the answer. Now, that it doesn't have to actually submit all the way. All right, so as long as you've hit the button, you've submitted it, even if it takes a while because you're on slow internet, you're still okay. When that 30 total minutes is up, question 2 will pop up, right? A new 20-minute timer will start, and your answers from question 1 will just kind of still be submitted in the background. Note, you can't go ahead and work on question 2, nor can you go back and work on question 1. So once you submit question 1, it's done, right? Question 2 is shorter. It's only 15 minutes to do and 5 minutes to submit, right? And that's the whole test. Now, you can do this one of two ways. They really want you to do it by typing your answers on a keyboard, on a typical keyboard, which is why there's some quirks to this test that we'll go over here. There is going to be some practice problems put out towards the end of April, early May, right? And a keyboarding help thing that I'll get to you. That should help clear up like how you would exactly write out an equation if you had to write out an equation, because they're trying not to do things that fancy. But I think they'd rather have you type it, A, because it'll be easier than to just upload it, and B, it'll be easier for them to read, right? You just have to have to be submitted before the timer runs out. You can handwrite them, but if you handwrite them, you either have to take a picture and then submit that picture, or scan it or do something. So there's going to be a little extra difficulty there if you handwrite versus type. So like I said, there's two questions. The first question is 60% of your grade. It's cleverly called the long free response question. The other question's only 40%, and it's the short one. I mean, if you read through the things here that are going to be on it, you'll notice that they're very lab-basy. Okay, so this one's I think is going to be a lot more of analyze this data, analyze this graph, how are you going to do this lab, sources of error, all sorts of things like that are going to come in much more than they do on a traditional APC test. There's going to be a lot fewer of those derive this from basic principles or, solve this big equation kind of thing, because, how are you going to show them that, right? How are you going to type that into a computer and show them all that work? So, it's going to be a lot of lab-based things, which again is why I suggest that you go and do some of the example problems that I've put on the website, because those were made to be more like the actual AP test. Luckily for us, right, they decided to only cover these topics on the test. By the way, kinematics kind of is a big catch-all. That includes projectile motion, one-dimensional motion, moving in circles, all that kind of stuff is all in there. So basically, it's everything we did in the unit, right? The 2 units that they're not going to test are the 2 units we didn't get to, right? We were just about to take our 3rd quiz in rotation and then would have started oscillations, and universal gravitation was a short 4-dayer because we've already laid most of the groundwork last year, but there won't be any questions on either of those on the test. So good for us, we only had that 1 extra day of new stuff, which you've hopefully looked at on the website. You can use an APC formula sheet, right? You can have it out. I mean, really, this is an open book test, right? Open book, open note test. So you can have pretty much anything around you that you want. If you print off a formula sheet before the test, sometime, anytime before the test, you can write whatever you want on it. Right? Do you want the second kinematic equation, which is not on there? Put it on there. Right? Do you want the one-dimensional elastic collision equations we derived? If you want them, throw them on there, right? Anything you want can be put on there. You want to have it a little organized because you don't want to be, really, you probably don't want to be, flipping through your notes, entire year's worth of notes or 2 years worth of notes if you've got your honors notes as well, or your AP1 notes, trying to find stuff, right? So, keep that in mind. But the equation sheet or something similar to it, right, you can certainly use. Any calculations you can be done with, are supposed to be able to be done with a pencil and paper. You really don't even need a calculator, although I would highly suggest you have one anyway, because you're probably going to be more comfortable doing things that way. Right? So notice that means that since the calculations are going to be simple, right? Again, maybe it's symbolic stuff or simpler numbers, right? Like for example, probably not going to use 9.8, you're going to use 10 on this test. Right? So you can use a calculator, may be helpful, right? Have one. Right? Have it powered up and all that good stuff. There's really 3 things that you want to look at on my website, right? You've got the AP review videos. I really highly suggest you are watching those, including the AP1 videos. Those are particularly good at asking the kinds of questions that you're a little more likely to see this year than you would have been in the past. Right? And I also think those 2 teachers do a little more of the basics, a little more kind of demoing things so they're a little nicer videos in some ways, right? The APC ones are very, very math heavy, right? But I would highly suggest you kind of work through both of them, right? And I'm putting them up there as they come in on the website. Of course, on Friday, I have my office hours, right? I can certainly have more if need be. And especially as we get closer, if people have questions. But I just plan really on answering questions and doing things like that during that hour. It's on Friday. It's on the website. Again, there's a whole page about how to get into Zoom and how to do that stuff. And then there's a page that I've been adding stuff to just recently, the free response practice problems page. Right? I've found a bunch of practice problems, and I'm finding more all the time that are going to be more like the questions that you're going to have on this year's test. Right? So rather than going back and doing, 15 years worth of APC free response questions, which is kind of what I used to give you, right, in the past, I think it's better if you do these ones that are more like what you're going to actually see, right? So you get some practice there. You guys have all the physics you need, and you've done a tremendous number of labs and things, so that aspect shouldn't scare you, right? But it's just a matter of getting familiar with the question type so you're not shocked by anything you see when you're actually taking the test, since you don't have a lot of time for it. They made a big deal about this in the webinar I listened to, that they're like going to be all over the internet trying to figure out ways to see if you're cheating. I think that's why they didn't do multiple choice, because it would have been too easy to cheat with those kinds of things, right, to share answers. They're going to let us see the answers about 2 weeks after the actual test. I think they said something like May 26th or something is a date they're shooting for. When I get those, what I'll probably do is announce a Zoom meeting, and then we can go over them, right? And hopefully that makes you happy because you see you got a lot of points. They claim that they will be monitoring social media and things, right? Probably looking for keywords and all that kind of stuff. So you really shouldn't be on social media at the same time as you're taking this test. They claim they've caught one person already who was trying to set up a ring of people to cheat on the test. They claim that if they catch you, they're not just going to, give you a 0 and boot you out of the test. They're going to report it to colleges and things, and make your life hard. So basically, don't cheat. You're prepared, all right? You should be pretty confident in what you've done over the last 2 years here in physics. So this top one here is important, that even if you have more than one device, so say you've got your phone too, right, but you're taking this on a computer, you need to submit your answers on the same device that you're logged into to see the question, right? They don't want you logging in on your computer and looking at there and then submitting it with your phone and doing that, because then you're logged in. You have to be logged in multiple times, and that becomes a nightmare for them. So if you log in on your computer, you have to submit your answer on the computer. This is why it might be easier to type, right? Because you can type right into your computer. There'll be little boxes that you can put your answers in, and if you type it right in there, when you're done, you just hit submit, you're golden. Right? If you do this on separate paper, you're going to have to figure out a way to get it into your computer. I was talking with Yamato, and he suggested perhaps using like your web camera, right, on your computer, if you know how to do that. So if you're using your web camera, you could possibly take a picture, and then you could upload that picture, right, all on the same device, notice. Right? They do suggest something other than a phone. My guess is probably because of size. Right? It's going to be hard to read these questions. If you've watched some of those APC videos, there's the one woman teacher that when she puts a question up, sometimes it's either super big or it's so tiny that I can't see it on my TV sitting in my family room, much less on a phone, right? So probably a bigger computer, a laptop, or a desktop would be best. They suggest logging in 15 to 30 minutes before the test to make sure that everything is working and that you're logged in. I would really suggest 30 minutes. And the reason I do that is because you are the first AP test. Okay, APC Mechanics is the first test given. So if something's going to go wrong, that's when it's going to go wrong. So you want to make sure you get in and you're just sitting around waiting for it, right? Waiting for that first question to pop up. Right? First question's not going to pop up until noon, and they actually said it might be a couple of minutes after noon, so don't freak out, right? They're going to give a little grace period for people getting in, but you should be the person that's at 11:30 is attempting to log in and getting in and making sure everything is good. You've got everything set up by you and everything is ready to go. So when the first question pops up, you can use that full 25 minutes to answer the question. Of course, you should have everything charged up, plugged in, all that good stuff. You can use the equation sheet like we talked about. You can use, I think I even posted that on the website. I mean, it's all over the website, but it's on the practice problems page. I might even make up something a little bigger than that as we go. Right? And of course, you can have a calculator or use an app on your phone or whatever handy, even though they technically say you don't need one. So this is one of the interesting things. Because they say that you should be able to do this test by typing, you will not be doing any graphing. Okay? There will be no graphs drawn by you. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean you won't have to analyze graphs. And if you go to that page where it talked about the types of questions, right, one of them made mention of analyzing data. Right? So I can imagine a question that is like the lab-based questions we've done on each test, where you have a graph of data drawn and a line going through that data, a line of best fit, right? And then they ask you to use that line of best fit to do something, right? Like they traditionally did on a lab-based problem, but this time you just don't have to make the graph yourself. Right? So be aware of that there's still going to be graphing, but you're not going to have to do it, which is kind of nice, actually. Like I said, if there's some sort of disruption to your internet or tech, there will be a form on the College Board website that you can complete in order to try to get to that June 1st makeup date. But they really hope that most people will take it on May 11th. And they claim that most colleges, right, have agreed to accept the passing scores, just like before, so that you can get that college credit. Again, you are very prepared for this test, or at least you were when we left school in March. Hopefully you're reviewing slowly as we get closer and closer here, watching the videos, doing the practice problems, preparing your test-taking place, right? You got a quiet place in the house, you got the computer set up, right? You got the little brothers or sisters outside playing in the backyard. You've got it all set up so that you're ready to go to take these tests. And again, ours is first. So get logged in early, be ready to go.